way, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess hopefully you hope for the Lakers a setback is just a setup for a greater comeback, and you hope that Frank Vogel goes somewhere where he can have a little bit more momentum. But let's move from the West Coast to the East Coast, shall we? In a city that never sleeps, the Brooklyn Nets came back in epic fashion from a 21-point deficit to seal a 110-98 victory Wednesday night against the New York Knicks. And that win put the Nets one game back off the Cavs for the 7th in the East, and they play each other in a big matchup tomorrow night. So here is KD on that Knicks-Nets rivalry.
Yeah, I just seen it. We 7-0 since I've been here. Oh, you talking about? Damn that. Is when I was at the Thunder? What year was that? 13. I got something to talk about on Twitter now.
He's got something to talk about on Twitter. Now, with that big win, the Nets have a lot of momentum going in the right direction. So what defines that postseason success for them, Shay?
Well, postseason success is a little different than what's right in front of them, because right in front of them, they need to win their next 2 games in order to lock up the 7th seed, and that is for certain. And their game against the Cavs tomorrow night is a big one. So that's first and foremost. In terms of what's going to happen in the postseason, it's obviously getting to a quote-unquote regular playoff. Therefore, they have to win a postseason series, which would be in the play-in. And to me, that would be the most success that the Nets can have at this point. We've seen these holes, and we saw it in the first half yesterday against the Knicks, where they were absolutely horrendous, including Kevin Durant, who I tend to think is the best player in the NBA right now. If you go into halftime having 0 rebounds and 9 points, and that's what you're putting on the floor as your best 1-2 punch in him and Kyrie, that scares me heading into the postseason. I have no idea what this Nets team is going to be when they're faced with actual challenges and not a Knicks team that really looked like they weren't even trying for half of that game. But here's what I do know in terms of trying to spin this positive, because I like to sometimes be the one that's a little more glass half full.
I respect it.
The Nets at this point are 8-4 in one-possession games. They're getting better. If you look down the East, which is a crowded East, especially at the top, Miami is 3-6 in such games, Boston 3-9, Philly 6-6. Again, in terms of one-possession games, the Nets are the gold standard. And so if they can continue to keep games close and then pull away at the end, it's not the scoring that we're questioning, it's going to be the defense. And then I hate to say this because I know this is going to open a lot of debate, but that's what we're here for. If you get Ben Simmons to at least have a little bit of an effect on the defense, perhaps then you could win more than just a series. What did I tell you?
The can of worms has been opened.
I've never seen you and Jay argue, so I actually y'all get along so well.
Oh, boy.
I want to see this.
All right, go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
First, Victoria.
Okay, sure. Oh, boy, no. What did I do?
She's just asking a question.
I know, but you stated the question as this is Kevin Durant on his rivalry with the Knicks. That's laughable.
I know.
A rivalry means both sides have to win games.
I was trying.
She likes the Packers-Bears rivalry, so maybe it doesn't matter.
I like the New York storyline.
Lost to the New York Knicks was in 2013.
I know, but
Are you kidding me? When he was with OKC, there's no rivalry there. I wish Stephen A. were here today because he's supposed to give me a nice little $6,000 Tom Ford suit. When I tell you, because he had the Knicks going to the Eastern Conference.
But he called it a rivalry after the game.
Basketball expert.
He called it a rivalry after the game. He did call it a rivalry after the game.
Hold on, we also can't. We gotta give Stephen A. some love too here. That man did say they're down 67 points for the Knicks in that first half. We know what the Knicks are going to do. And the Knicks certainly did in the second half. So we got to give some love.
I'll give him love on the back end after he said, New York, stand up. New York, we here. We here. Stand up. I wish he were here. So that's one. I just had to address you.
Do you want me to leave? Is that
No. We're actually on the same page.
Wow.
Okay, I can't wait.
Okay, we're on like.
So I know expectation is always championship or bust for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. But here's why they get a pass this year. And let's just be realistic about it. We don't know what the hell is going on with Ben Simmons.
No.
Lord knows we want to know what's going on with Ben Simmons in his back, because I believe if he were actually on the floor, if he came in with a reasonable time frame between when the Nets are playing and the playoffs started, I would have said that would have been enough time for this guy to find his chemistry with this team, understanding what their defensive identity is, and I think he brings a different dynamic to this team. Then I would have said, you know what, it's championship. Me realistically watching this team defend, when I watched the Houston Rockets, I was at the game sitting courtside. When Kevin Porter and Jalen Green go for 30+, I'm sitting there saying, what? Wow, this is where this team is. When I can drag Andre Drummond on the ball screen, I can score against Andre Drummond, and I feel like I got one leg out there. So my thing is, Not having Joe Harris on the floor, a guy who defensively is part of the backbone of this team. Like, that hurts this team. Not having Ben Simmons hurts this team, right? So I still think they're prolific. They're lethal scorers that can take you in the playoffs. But realistically, them getting through the play-in tournament, and if matchup-wise, if they're playing against the Milwaukee Bucks and the Milwaukee Bucks get number 1 seed, like, I don't expect them to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, I don't know if I would expect them to beat the Boston Celtics. If they got the Philadelphia 76ers, I could potentially see that a matchup that they could win, just knowing the history there of how that would bring the best out of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. But knowing Doc Rivers, Doc don't want to see the Brooklyn Nets.
No.
So I don't see the Philadelphia 76ers going for the number 1 seed to see this team. So my thing is, if they win a playoff series, I think that is a successful year to a degree.
Stop it.
That's realistic.
A successful season when you thought at the beginning of the year it was going to be Harden, Kyrie,
But it's not.
and KD.
But see, that's my thing.
But that's
When you
part of
thought
failure.
it was going to
But
be.
that's part of
But that's
failure.
not where they are.
That's
not where they are.
adjusting what reasonable expectation is now. And to see how far that expectation has come to where they are currently, you'd have to call it a failure. And I'll do you one better. I'm glad I had a chance to sit here and listen to you two kind of go back and forth and ultimately come harmoniously here, because I didn't believe this until this very moment. I wouldn't play Ben Simmons at all. I wouldn't show him at all in this postseason, because it's stacked against him. And it's stacked against the Nets in this postseason. And so, yes, KD is 34 years old. It's clearly win now, especially when they made the move you did. But is it win now because you made the move you did? You're set up to be good for a few years here in Brooklyn. What do we know about Ben Simmons right now? That he's not in the best mental health space.
Yep.
And also, we now know that his back might be a little bit jacked up too. He's not deemed the savior for this squad, but he kind of is. Because with KD and Kyrie, 2 first-ballot Hall of Famers that can light it up offensively, but they're lacking a defensive component. It's a belief that all of a sudden Ben Simmons shows up defensively, they're going to go on a run. Not quite. Hasn't played in a year. Conditioning in question, mental health in question, and his headspace, given what we saw him last time on the floor. And oh, by the way, can his body hold up? In the postseason, mind you. So to me, I think keep this a clean runway. Just shelve him off. See what KD and Kyrie can provide, maybe some fireworks, maybe Shay's right, but don't do it with Ben Simmons. So it's too late now in the game to throw this guy in a pressure situation like that. How do you feel about Ben Simmons and pressure?
Oh, I don't like it. And all that sounds great. But I'm sorry, what were your expectations for the Nets? Like, how far did you expect them to go? Because I didn't hear an answer.
At the beginning of the year, title.
Well, obviously at the beginning. What are we talking
It's
about? April right now.
But that still has measurement in where we are.
And what is your measurement?
Now, there's no way that if they get through the play-in.
So what's your expectation?
I'm telling you, if they get through the play-in, great. You know who they might see? The 2-seeded Celtics. Do you know what Jason Tatum did to this Nets defense?
Actually, we'll give them a shot against the Celtics. Not having Robert Williams.
54 against
not having the Time Lord really helps.
Okay.
It really helps. It really helps New York.
You never know with Robert Williams when he could return in that series, for one. We don't know. But yes, you're right. All I know is what Brown and Tatum can do to that defense, that perimeter defense, is going to be ugly.
So what you're saying is at the end of the day,
they don't make it through a 7-game
You
series.
agree with Shay and I. That's what you're saying.
That you think they win one?
But how I look at that ultimately in the grand scheme of things,
failure.
How that season looks is a failure.
Yeah.
So with KD having a knee injury, being out for a while. By the way,
come on, injuries happen everywhere.
No, but these all play into it.
Hold on. They were number 1 in the East when KD went down.
True.
With Kyrie playing part-time because of the vaccine. Then James Harden decides that he doesn't want to be there anymore, checks out. They're forced to make a trade. I understand that as athletes, we're always going to look at either you win a championship or bust, because that will always be my mentality. And I see that for KD and Kyrie. But realistically, when you put this season into perspective, you can't realistically call it a failure because of all the things that they were dealing with. If you're saying all these guys were playing and it wasn't Kyrie with the pandemic and that Ben Simmons was there and they're all together, fine. If they have injuries in that aspect, fine. But that's not been the case this whole year.
Ja Morant, injury. Memphis goes 21-3. You can overcome injury if you're constructed properly. Second part, part-time player.
But defensive-minded team.
Part-time player.
Pieces.
Kyrie Irving made this decision. Respect his decision. Everybody has their own right. But you're laying out domino things that have happened, which prove expectation beginning of the season. Where they are is reality here. And that is a steep decline, which leads to it's a failure of a season, given how you started it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, how you start, how you end can drastically change, as we saw with the Lakers as well. But we got to take a break, so we're going to leave on a harmonious note, shall we? We all agree with
nothing about this show that's
Oh,
harmonious.
well, we're going to try to be harmonious, shall we? Okay. Moving on, we're going to take a break. NFL QB storylines have dominated the offseason. So which superstar signal caller is under the most pressure next season?